Are you a perfectionist? Four signs that you might be betraying your wild heart. You've just finished something absolutely brilliant. It's a project you've poured yourself into. It's work that matters, something that could actually change things. But all you can see are the faults and the flaws, and you feel like a failure, and that bit's not right, and you forgot that thing over there, and that could be better if, and you just need a little bit more time. Now, one of the things that you possibly do is pushed through exhaustion because rest feels like laziness, or you've learned the family mantra of we work hard in our family, and that's certainly something that happens in my family. For example, you might have delayed your memoir, your business idea, some art for months, maybe years, because it's not ready. Now, I'm going to give you just a little example. I've just finished this book, and I've really had to push through my perfectionism, which I have to say doesn't show up very often. And I have trained myself to let things go and to celebrate and stuff like that. And we'll talk about some of that. Now, if it sounds familiar, you're not being demanding, you're not being difficult, but being a perfectionist for me is about betraying your wild heart. It's You've got this voice in your head that is constantly saying things aren't good enough. Um, that you need to finish this bit before you can release it out into the wild. Well, do you know what? That voice, that inner critic, is lying to you. So I'm Dale, and I work with midlife women who have probably spent decades pouring their creative energy into impossible standards, dreadful self-criticism, and that relentless achievement. And I can smile at this because all of these things have been true about me. And the sad part is that your heart project is gathering dust because you're waiting to be perfect. So I'm going to have a look at the four signs of perfectionist, which is one of the seven archetypes or seven self-betrayal archetypes. But most importantly, it's like, how do we redirect all of your brilliant energy towards something that really kind of like nourishes you and feels good? Because your wild heart isn't waiting for you to be perfect. She's just waiting for you to pull your finger out and start. So, what is a perfectionist? What are we talking about? So, a perfectionist is someone who has like really, really high standards. High standards are good. They fuel excellence. They create quality and they push us to grow. But a perfectionist is someone who uses their gifts for excellence as weapons against themselves. And it's like living with a moving goalpost. So here's my goal, and it keeps changing, or I've got a bar and it keeps getting higher and higher. And you finish something and it's finished, but instead of celebrating, you go, oh, yeah, I'm just going to raise that bar a little bit more. Oh, yeah. And you drive yourself relentlessly, believing that your worth depends on what you accomplish. Like, to what standards are these? So you delay sharing and starting because you're waiting for the perfect moment that, believe you me, never ever comes. And this, and this is a big but. Perfectionism is not a superpower. It's a prison. It's keeping you trapped in a little tiny space. And we need to open those doors, those gates of the prison, and let that creative energy come through. So that same energy that has created the prison could also set you free. All I'm going to say as free as you choose to be, because all of this stuff is about choice. But first, we need to recognize those patterns. So let's start walking through our four signs Sign number one, impossible standards. So, and that's really impossible, like impossible, impossible. You set the bar so high, you're never going to reach it. And the twisted brilliance of this is you move the goalposts every time you get close. So, you finish writing a chapter of your memoir. Instead of celebrating, you think, oh my God, it's just so awful. I need to rewrite it again. Let it go, surrender, go and do something else. You launch your website, and instead of popping the champagne and thinking, I've done it, you go, oh, it's not good enough. I need to change this. I should have done more. This, let it go. You're painting or you've completed a project or a presentation, and all you can see is the bit that is missing or the little mistake that you've made, the blob of green paint that no one is ever going to notice. So what's happening is you're measuring yourself against some kind of idealized version that doesn't exist. You're comparing your messy human reality with some kind of fantasy of perfection. And my dear, fantasy always wins the fight when we are the perfectionist. So, not only have I worked on my own memoir, I've worked with other people in the past on theirs. And I remember working with someone, and everything, it was a beautiful memoir, really, really powerful stories. But she never shared it because she wasn't ready. And for me, that was quite heartbreaking, that I've written it, I wanted to write it, but it's not perfect. I've moved the goalpost, so I'm not going to publish. But instead of moving the goalpost, just imagine them firmly planted in the ground. There's our vision. That's what we want to work towards. And it's not going to move. It's rooted. Celebrate all your wins. So what I did with this book, for example, is there's a chapter on memoir and a self-help chapter. And the memoir stuff was pretty hairy to write. And I found myself crying quite a lot and going, I hate my bloody life and all this sort of stuff. But what I did is I broke everything down. Let's say I finished chapter one, I went into the kitchen, I turned on the music, and I danced with my dogs. I'd done it. Tell someone you love what you've accomplished. I tell my mum, I'm lucky enough to have my mum, and she's like, oh, we're so proud of you. And it's so lovely to hear, even though we go, it's not perfect yet. I can remember sitting and reading my chapters out to my mum and cringing where I'd made mistakes, but I did it anyway, right? And I celebrated after I read the poor woman 6 chapters out to her. So it doesn't mean endlessly proving something. It means we want to create from joy. We want to complete with pride and trust that it's good enough. And actually, it's more than good enough. Often, when we write things, we get to the end of the first draft and we're like, oh my God, it's utter crap. Yeah, well, at least you've written it. There's a lot of people who never even get to first draft. So here's something to try. Next time you finish something, work project, making dinner, resist that urge to raise the bar. Breathe. Say out loud, this is enough. I am enough. And if you live with dogs, it's okay because they will agree. Other people in the house might think you're a bit bonkers. But notice how your body feels. Notice that relief. That is enough. So, journal prompt. Where in my life do I keep moving the goalposts, and what would it feel like to plant them firmly and celebrate? That's a really good one. Right. Merciless self-criticism. This one breaks my heart because I think we all have had at some point in our life that inner critic who says, you're not good enough. I remember doing my MBA long, long, long time ago. And There was reasons that I did it. My husband kept telling me that I was stupid. So I did an MBA. I mean, like, go figure. And I remember putting in my dissertation, and the day of the results, I walked down the corridor. Everyone was crowded around, and we all looked at to see who passed. And I saw that I had a pass. And do you know what? I slunk away. I just felt that what I'd done wasn't good enough, wasn't perfect enough. And do you know what made it worse? They actually put my dissertation in the library, one of the top five dissertations. I went and stole it because it wasn't perfect, right? Now, that inner critic ruled my life for a very long time, but you would never dream of speaking that harshly to a friend. Could you imagine that internal dialogue that we have is cruel, it's punishing, and it's relentless. And we spot every flaw while diminishing every strength. You know, when I think back to that MBA, I bloody well did it. I did it. You know, I wrote that dissertation, it went in the library, and all I saw was failure. But wow, you know, I can reflect back now and I go, wow, look, you know, I did it. Wow, wow, wow. But I didn't celebrate because none of it was perfect. So we use our brilliant analytical gifts, the ones that could solve problems and create beauty, to tear ourselves down. Another example, imagine, so I worked with someone and helped her to put together a presentation, and that presentation was truly, truly inspiring. People came up to her afterwards and said she changed their thinking, and all she could think about was one slide where she stumbled over her words. What a teeny, teeny, weeny little thing. So my question is when you've got that inner critic, would you speak to your friend the way that you speak to yourself? No, then bloody well stop it. You know, it's so easy to do. My inner critic always used to call me a silly cow. So I know where that comes from. I absolutely know where it comes from, and I haven't said it for a very, very long time. So the wild heart doesn't respond to that punishment. She responds to love, kindness, self-compassion. So try this. Write down one really, really harsh thing that you say to yourself that comes from your inner critic, just one, and then rewrite it as if you were speaking to a dear friend who had accomplished the same thing. No inner critic, is there? Yeah, that's your real voice, the one that builds instead of destroys. So I have another journal prompt. What is one achievement I have dismissed as not good enough, and how would I honor it if I were celebrating a friend's success? So sign number 3 is relentless achievement, without rest, without celebration. So what you're doing is you drive, 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 no breaks, no pauses, no acknowledgement about how far you come. I literally did that this morning. So I'm making this video, it's November 2025. And I just sat there and I thought, I can't believe the year is ending. And what have I done? What have I accomplished? Absolutely nothing. And then I looked on my desk and I have a book, right? At some point, we have to stop pushing ourselves and recognizing that we have actually accomplished something. Because if we don't, everything just feels like we're proving to ourselves that we're not enough. So we push through that exhaustion, we push through that potential burnout to prove that we are enough. You think rest is laziness, that stopping is failing, that celebration is arrogance. It's not. That is a whole load of bollocks. We need to rest. I'm going to give you another example before I give you an example of someone else. In human design, I'm an emotional projector, and I've spent much of my life not understanding what that meant. And I have pushed and pushed and pushed for perfection and completely and utterly burnt myself out to the point of almost breaking to pieces, right? And when I really embraced being an emotional projector and recognizing that rest was really important, it changed everything. So I recall having a woman working with me who kept pushing through that chronic exhaustion. She's not sleeping, waking up at 3 a.m., just believing that if she worked harder, achieved more, proved herself just one more time, then finally she could take that rest, she could take that holiday, she could go away for the weekend, she could go and celebrate with friends. But that day never came because perfectionism doesn't have an enough setting. So rest isn't failure, it's fuel. It gives us energy for what is important. Now, what I do, for example, is I take lots of rest during the day. And when I get to a point, I know when I get to the point, my eyes go cross-eyed and I just can't make out what I'm doing. I walk my dogs and I'll go and do a yoga nidra. And I will sit with my friends and celebrate something that I've done. And it gives me energy. So achievement without punishment is, or achievement without punishment, I will get my words right. Achievement without celebration is just punishment with a bloody massive to-do list. So the wild heart doesn't need another gold star. She wants you to stop, to breathe, and to recognize that you are already worthy, not because of what you've done, just because of who you are. You are bold, you are brave, you are beautiful. Believe it. So try this, right? Schedule joy as seriously as you schedule achievement. Now, what you could do is make a what brings me joy list. So you could do like A to Z and then write all those things down, put them all into a jar somewhere. And then when you need a little bit of joy, you pull one out and go and do it. For me, a simple one is walking dogs. It's always a pleasure to be out in Mother Nature. Maybe stick it in your diary, one walk, one yoga nidra, some creative play, colour a mandala, stare at the ceiling, just something, and treat it like a deadline that you have to do it. So when the perfectionist says, I just close the computer, shut down whatever you're doing, go and do the resty thing. So journal prompt. Where am I confusing exhaustion with proof of worth? And how could rest become part of my definition of excellence? Last sign, analysis paralysis. So this is perfecting endlessly instead of completing and sharing. You research. I like to research. You plan. I like to plan. You prepare because you want perfection. You endlessly tweak your business plan, but never open the shop or never launch the website or never release the new product. You revise your book, but never share a single chapter. You dream about your art, but never post a single piece. Now, you're not starting because you can't guarantee it's perfect. Do you know what? You can never guarantee anything's perfect, but you just have to be really brave and do it. So I worked with somebody right at the very end of this process, and she'd been research when she came to me, she'd been researching her coaching business and website templates and branding exercises and taking endless courses and doing lots and lots of market research. But she was waiting to be ready. Ready never arrives. You just have to begin. So imperfect action beats perfect planning every time. Just breathe and do it. Breathe and do it. And it doesn't matter, if it's wrong, it's wrong. I know that takes a big mindset shift, but your wild heart doesn't want another freaking spreadsheet. It doesn't need to take another course, another reason to wait. She just wants you to start. Messy, imperfect, gloriously human, just start. So how about you go and pick a project, something that you'd really love to get out there, but you've been perfecting it forever. Commit to sharing a messy first version, and that might just be the vision. So you share something within the next 24 hours. Now, one of the things that this does is it makes you then accountable. And I'm sure that, social media scrolls and feeds and people will forget, but you know that you've shared a messy first version of your whatever it might be. It's not perfect, it's not polished, it's raw, it's real, it's you, and it's out there. So watch what happens when you stop waiting for permission and give it to yourself instead. So journal prompt. What opportunity have I missed by waiting to be ready? And what imperfect action could I take today? Do it, do it, do it, do it, and tell me that you've done it. So the truth about perfectionism versus excellent. Excellence says that this is beautiful. Perfectionism says this is never good enough. One builds, one destroys. One celebrates progress, one only sees flaws and never starts. One creates from a place of joy, and one creates from a place of fear. The perfectionist will burn herself trying to be flawless and perfect and whatever else. And a sovereign creator burns away what is not hers and rises with what is. Same fire, different outcome. But the perfectionist has cost you a lot, not just energy, but opportunities, connection, and time that you can't get back. That book that's been delayed for years, you postponed launching or whatever else, the joy you said no to because you were preparing to be ready to wait to do something that has cost you, not in theory, but in real life. And once you see that cost really clearly, you'll be able to feel it. You can't unsee it and you can't unfeel it. And this is where our transformation begins. So, what's next? For me, what's next is really connecting to our heart's desires, our heart project, and understanding where we can take that reclaimed energy and redirect it into the heart project, the thing that you have been dreaming about, planning and perfecting. It's not waiting for you to be perfect, it's waiting for you to begin. A heart project will really help you feel fulfilled and give you meaning. So that energy that you've been using to beat yourself up, move those goalposts, raise the bar, and delay your dreams, that same energy can fuel your transformation. And what we want to do is go from perfectionist to sovereign creator. So sovereignty, self-governance over your choices, which means you get to decide what standard serves you, not what others demand. When good enough is more than enough. How you spend your creative energy and what your heart project actually looks like. And the creator bit, someone who is actively making their heart project real, not waiting to be ready, creating now, imperfectly, beautifully, and very, very boldly. Now, if you're ready to direct that brilliant, powerful energy towards something that nourishes you, I've got something for you. So I'm going to invite you to head to my website, daledarley.com, and you'll see that there is a self-betrayal archetype quiz. You take the quiz and it will come up with one of 7 self-betrayal types. And then what you'll get is a guide, a worksheet that talks about who you are as that main character, what constellation you belong to, what your creative redirective identity looks like. And from there, you can join me in the alchemy of becoming and reclaim your wild, and a circle called Return to the Wild. So your wild heart is not waiting for perfect, she's waiting for you to begin. So like I said, head to my website, daledarley.com, and if you like my content, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell, and I will see you next time.